There's a lot of promises that are made with it, but there's no proof. It's about putting public dollars into private pockets, and in some cases about segregation. It's certainly been that way in Alabama throughout the history of it.
Are you on? Which side are you on?
Okay, so we've got a little bit more time left in the main show. We can just touch on school choice really quickly. School choice, quote unquote, really school privatization, and really just the main thing that I want to say here is that as we're leaving the radio, and I'm hopefully we're kind of like at the high point of the radio listenership at this point in the program. So, folks that are listening to me on the radio, as you hear people over this legislative session, as you hear folks go around promoting quote-unquote school choice, the diversion of public money to private schools, as you hear people promoting this, I want to encourage you to listen to them as they promote it and see if they point to any evidence at all that this is actually a good policy for the public. And by evidence, I mean looking at places that have implemented similar policies and seeing the results. Because it's not as if at this point in the school reform, education reform movement, it's not like this hasn't been tried in other places. It has. And so there's evidence. We can look and see what these voucher programs have done in states across the country. We can just look and see, right, before and after, what happened. And some of it, there's a certain amount that you've got to do some, taking some data with a grain of salt, right, because there's a lot of confounding variables and blah, 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 blah. But, there are some people that are doing good research that are trying to, do everything that they can to remove all the other variables and just see what the voucher programs are doing, right? And so just listen for that data. Listen for that data. Listen for people to tell you what the advantages have been, where quote-unquote school choice has been implemented. Because last year, they didn't tell you that data. Like the entirety, and I listened pretty closely. I don't listen to talk radio as much as I used to, but last year I did. Last year I listened to talk radio a lot. I read a lot of the right-wing newspapers, and I can't remember a single time that they pointed to places where this has been implemented and touted the results. Can't remember a single time. And that should tell you something, right? Right? If people, because when people talk about Medicaid expansion, we're not just, theoretically, when they talk about school choice, it's all theoretical. It's like all, ideological, theoretically, competition is good. Competition good. And so if competition, then school's good. That's like the argument. That's literally the argument. If competition, school's good. Okay. No data, right? So when we talk about Medicaid expansion, that's not what we say. We don't just say healthcare good. We point to other states where this is happening. We point to studies predicting the results based on the results in other states, right? There's data there. We can look and see what's happened because Medicaid expansion is not a unique thing, right? It's happened before, and so has voucher programs. So there's data out there, so you should look for it. We've done a deep dive into the data before. I don't have everything with me right now, but the general consensus of the thing is that they're just not better than public schools on the whole, generally speaking. There are obviously some charter schools that do better than public schools, but there are also some charter schools that do worse than public schools. And a lot of the ones that do better because they are able to select the students that go there. They don't have a charge to educate every child in the district. It's only certain people that even apply, and then of the people that even apply, they only accept so many, right? So there's a big difference there. And so it's just there's not evidence to suggest that there are general and widespread benefits from school voucher programs. There's just not.
Right. And there is plenty of evidence from Louisiana and places like Indiana, Ohio, Milwaukee, where they have tried these vouchers, and it has been disastrous in terms of academic outcomes. If that's what you're interested in, right? If that's what you're interested in. Now, as you've pointed out, some of this is just ideological. It's not really about like, oh, well, our schools, our kids deserve a better education.
Right.
It's an ideological attachment to free market competition, and to a belief in, a disbelief in the public, and the concept of the public and the idea of public education, period.
Right.
And, a lot of times it's intertwined with, various forms of reactionary segregationist type of ideology. And that segregation is not just by race, but by class and ability and language and religion. Because let's not forget how many of these private schools are religious schools. And so what you have is the state subsidizing religious indoctrination for kids who may or may not even be really consenting to that. And, you're going to tell parents of at-risk kids that this is the solution. So there's a lot of promises that are made with it, but there's no proof. It's about putting public dollars into private pockets, and and in some cases about segregation.
Right.
It's certainly been that way in Alabama throughout the history of it.
Right.
There's not a surprise that, when integration of our schools started is when a lot of these, private academies popped up all over the state, and a lot of the church schools that popped up all over the state. And these are some of the same ones that have their hands out wanting voucher money now.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that you have some legislators who, are pushing that. But there's been special interest pushing this agenda for a very, very long time here and all over the country.
Right. Yeah. So, so listen for it, folks. Listen for it. Go do your own research, go look this up yourself, on your own time. But as you are hearing people propagandize to you about the value of this, listen for evidence, listen for numbers, listen for stuff like that, and see if they have anything beyond competition makes school good, right? Because that's all that they had last year. That's the only thing that they had last year. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.